Hello. In this tutorial I'm going to show you how to install and use the popular citation management software package Mendeley. You may have used other software citation packages before like Zotero or EndNote or RefWorks. If you haven't, I think that it's pretty easy to follow Mendeley if you're just doing this for the very first time. If you have used one of those, I'm going to show you how Mendeley is similar to those features you're already used to and how it really shines in certain areas like managing and storing PDFs. So unsurprisingly, the first thing you have to do to get Mendeley is to go to Mendeley. So you just want to go to mendeley.com. Sorry, I can't type or spell. So if we go to mendeley.com, the first time you go there, you're going to see this page. It's going to ask you to create an account, as you see right here. Once you create an account, you're going to want to download, where it says here, sign up and download the desktop client. So I've already done that, so I'm just going to log into my account here. So now this is going to show me, I'm going to come back to this, but this is kind of the Mendeley desktop. This is where your account lives on the web. So my account, you can see, is established. There's already plenty of things in my account. I'm just going to go to the desktop and show you, when you install the Mendeley desktop client, this is what it looks like, this little icon here. If I click on mine, again, mine's full of all kinds of documents and PDFs. I've used Mendeley quite a bit. The first time you come to this page, it just syncs every time you open it to make sure if there's anything new in your account, it's going to pull down to the desktop client so you can use it. The first time you open it, it should look like this, where it says show the welcome screen. They figure at Mendeley that you've probably used something else. To the options here, import from EndNote, Zotero, RefWorks. So if you have files and other programs, you can certainly use this feature to pull them in. And I'm going to show you a bunch of other ways to get things into your account. I would say, so the first thing you should do after you come to this point and you install the desktop client, there are two other things you definitely want to do right away. So up here where it says Tools, you definitely want to install the web importer, and you also want to install the Microsoft Word plugin. I already have it installed, that's why it says uninstall for me, because obviously it's already there. When you install the web importer, you should just it'll take you to a page that's just Mendeley, I think, .com/install. Once you go to that page and import it in whatever browser you're using, you're going to see a button in your toolbar like this one right here, Import to Mendeley. I'm using Chrome, so it goes right up here, but it works in Safari or Firefox or Internet Explorer, whatever you're using. So you definitely want to do that, and do that with the Microsoft Word plugin. Also, while you're here, right off the bat, one of the first things you should do, where it says here All Documents, this button that says Edit Settings, click on that and make sure this option here for Synchronize Attached Files is turned on. That way it's going to attach any PDFs you save to your account. It's going to sync to your account up in the cloud and vice versa. So anything you save is going to make sure it syncs down here on your desktop so you can use it again when you go to cite papers. Okay, so like I said, I really want to start to show you how to use Mendeley. So as I said, if you've used other citation management software packages before, I'm going to talk about those features that Mendeley has that those programs have as well. So you're probably going to want to search databases directly, so PubMed, Web of Science, PsycInfo, whatever databases you use, and import those records from that database to Mendeley. So Mendeley can obviously do that. I'm just going to go back to our library homepage, and I want to go to PubMed first. So of course we always recommend that you go to PubMed from the BU library homepage, only because we can link to the PDFs that we own more easily from PubMed. So I'm just going to click here to go to PubMed. I've already logged in. Obviously, if you haven't, you just log in with your Kerberos to get to this point, so you can, again, get to those PDFs. So I'm going to do a really kind of broad search. I'm just going to search, say, for cancer. So PubMed, there's over 2.7 million results for cancer. And you can see here that PubMed, by default, shows you 20 records at a time. So say I wanted to start importing these records here from this first page of PubMed. Since I have installed that Import to Mendeley button, I'm just going to click here. Now sometimes you get a little pop-up block to sign up here in the top of your PDF. If you do that, just make sure you tell your browser to allow these pop-ups from Mendeley. So once you do that, you can see that it took me, this page is actually from my Mendeley web account. So if I want to use any of these particular articles here, I'm just going to grab one at random. I'll grab this one here. I'm just going to click on this little green plus sign next to import. So now it's going to actually import this record to my Mendeley library on the web. If I want to see what that record looks like, I can click here. And again, this goes to my web account. And you can see where it says my library here. So here is that record it just pulled in from PubMed for me. I can see it if I want to in this account, so in my web account. If I have to make any changes, maybe there was a mistake in this particular entry, like they got the author name wrong or the journal title wrong or something, I can make these changes here before I save it to my account finally, but in this case I'm sure it's fine. I'm just going to say save. I also have the option now, if I want, I can go back now and look at that in my Mendeley desktop, so I can click here. And it's just going to open up my client for me again, that's right here on the bottom of the page. And you can see that that article just got pulled in, which is great. So I'm doing this at 7:05 at night. Here is that reference I just pulled in. So it does, sorry, 7:16 at night. I can't tell time apparently. So it does a really nice job of pulling things in. And you can see this is all the information that it pulled in automatically. So all the things you need to cite it. So the author names, the journal title, the year, volume, issue, all the kind of metadata that way. Pulls in the abstract. So it does a really, really nice job of pulling things in from PubMed. If you use any other database, like Web of Science, PsycInfo, as I said, it works pretty much the same way. You would just click on that Import to Mendeley button, and it's going to pull it in. There might be times, though, that you want to import something that's not indexed in a database. Maybe it's an original paper that no one's had published yet, or it's an interview, or a map, or a transcript. It's kind of an item that's not available from a database. Just like any other citation management software package, you can certainly create an item from scratch. If you just go up here where it says File, and I can say here Add Entry Manually. So I could type in whatever information I had here. But there are a couple of really nice features too in Mendeley that are kind of unique. So you see where it says here under Catalog IDs, I have 3 options here. So Archive is a high-energy astrophysics and physics database. If every article in Archive has a number, if I had that archive number, I could type it in here and it would go to that particular article in Archive and pull in the citation. DOI stands for Digital Object Identifier, so many new papers have a DOI. It's just basically a link to that paper they can't break. So if you had a DOI number, you could type that in here. But sometimes people that search PubMed, and certainly people that I've worked for before, when they search PubMed, they prefer to print out, say, this particular page. So I used to work at the VA in Jamaica Plain, and my boss and our director would hand me page after page of these sort of printouts from PubMed, and they would just circle the articles that they liked and leave it up to me to get the articles and enter them into our database. So you can see that every article in PubMed has this kind of unique identifier here. So that's that PMID number. So if you have a PMID number, so I'm just going to go back over here to Mendeley, and I'm going to use one that I actually wrote down earlier today. So if you had one of those 8-digit numbers, and I'm just going to use this one here, 23373106, which is just the newest thing entered to PubMed today. That's why I chose it. And if I click on this little magnifying glass, Mendeley is going to go to PubMed automatically. It's going to find that particular article, and it's going to pull that record in for me automatically. So if you happen to have a list, like I said, a printed out list from PubMed that you saved, you could just type in, you could go to File, Make New Item, just type in that PMID number, that 8-digit number, and it's going to find the record in PubMed and pull the record in automatically, which is really nice. There might be times, though, especially if you're in the School of Public Health, that there be databases you use that don't really allow you to have that import from Mendeley button to function. The first database for me that leaps to mind that we use quite a bit, and I'm just going to close this out. You always want to close out that screen so you can make sure you can import things from a new database when you get there. The database that always kind of leaps to mind for me is a database called Popline. Popline is a great resource for public health, but it's not really an expensive, or I shouldn't say it's not really a well-funded database like PubMed or Web of Science you have to pay for a subscription. It's created and maintained by the Johns Hopkins School of Public Health. It's pretty amazing that they make it free to the world, but again, it does have a few technical limitations. So you could go to Popline just from our public health subject guide page or from our databases page, but since it's free, I'm just going to Google Popline here, so it's just popline.org. So Popline is a really good sort of human-curated collection of gray literature, so things that aren't necessarily published in a journal, things like white papers or a paper created by an NGO or some government agency. So I'm just going to go to advanced search here, and again, really super broad topic. I'll just stick with, say, cancer again, just for the sake of argument here as a topic. So I'm just going to type in cancer here as a topic and do a search. So when I do a search here in Popline, again, that Import to Mendeley button is not going to work. So if there were certain papers here that I wanted to use, what I would have to do is log into a Popline account, which I've already created. It's totally free, so if you use Popline a lot, I would definitely recommend doing this. And then you want to save the records you want to use to your documents, export that as a file, then import that into Mendeley. It's a lot easier than it sounds. So I'm just going to sign into my account here. Like I said, it's completely free, so if you use Popline a lot, I would definitely recommend doing this. I'm just going to log into my account. So you can see now that I'm logged in as me. I'm just going to go back to my advanced search, and I'm going to run that same search again so I can get those results back. So once I get to this next page where the results are, so say for example I wanted to use this, I like this article here, I want to save that to my Mendeley account. I would just click here where it says to add to my documents. And you're going to see in a second once that document goes in there. So now I can see that icon changed from add to remove, so that means it's been saved someplace. I can click here on my documents, so that's where all of the documents I've saved in my different searches have gone. So I need to make a file here that Mendeley can recognize. So I'm going to choose this middle option here, RIS. So RIS, most citation management software packages recognize and generate RIS. So EndNote recognizes it, RefWorks recognizes it, Zotero recognizes it. So if you're ever using a database where that import to Mendeley button doesn't work, just export the citations you like as RIS, and then you can pull it right into Mendeley. So I'm just going to minimize this page here in Chrome so I can get this file out of here and drag it onto my desktop. I'm just going to go back to my Mendeley desktop client. I'm going to minimize this so I can kind of see what I'm doing. Just have this off on the left-hand side of the screen. If I go back to that, if I go back here from help to the show the welcome screen, and as I said before, they sort of expect that you would have things already saved as PDFs or files or things from Zotero or EndNote. So I'm just going to take this RIS file and drag it in here, and it's going to automatically import that for me. So that one article I just selected, it just pulls that in automatically, that RIS file. And that would work from any database if you save something as an RIS file. Also, if you needed to export things, so say you wanted to export your Mendeley library to somebody else. So I'm just going to go to a really small sort of library here, and I'll explain these sort of folder options in a second. So if I just say chose these three things here that I wanted to send to somebody else, to like Zotero user or something, I can just say here file export. I could save this as RIS myself, and then somebody could easily import that into EndNote or RefWorks or any other citation manager they were using. Okay, so like I said, that's the way that you're used to sort of importing things from a database or from, in this case, importing an RIS file. So Mendeley does some really interesting things, though, that are pretty unique. Some of these things Zotero and EndNote can do, but not quite as easily and not quite as well. So like I said, they probably assume that you have quite a few PDFs already generated. You probably have saved folders and folders of PDFs or a bunch of PDFs on your desktop. So again, if you go back to that show the welcome screen view, and if I have any PDFs on my desktop, and I just stuck a few here just to use as an example, so here's a particular article from the New England Journal of Medicine. If I just drag that PDF here into Mendeley, it's going to find that for me automatically and pull that in. So I'm going to say that it kind of flagged this as being, I'm just going to ignore this thing up here, that's okay. I'm just going to ignore this and say that this is fine. So sometimes if it finds an article that needs a little bit of help, so the catalog record isn't perfect, it's going to flag this with this little question mark, and it automatically goes into this folder here, needs review. So if I want to see if I can find a better title for this particular article, I can click here, search by title, and it's going to search Google Scholar and try to find a more complete name for this record. In this case, it can't, but that's okay. This is just an example. It's going to say details are correct, and that's now going to go into my library. Mendeley says they're about 98% accurate in automatically naming things when it finds them. And it does this kind of a three-step process. When you try to import anything for the first time, it looks to see if you've already imported that item into your library, so it looks in your own library first. If it can't find it there, it actually looks in other papers uploaded by other Mendeley users, and if it can't find it there, it actually looks on Google Scholar. Right now, there are about 300 million papers in Mendeley, so there's a pretty good chance it's a paper that somebody else has already uploaded. The reason why this one probably isn't there because I downloaded this paper today. It's one of the newest articles in New England Journal of Medicine, and today's a Saturday, so probably not too many people are actually in Mendeley right now importing records. Okay, so if you have a single PDF, it's pretty easy to pull in. Again, you probably have just folders and folders and folders of PDFs. And this is an example, too, that I just brought in this folder right here earlier today, this Mendeley examples. So I only have, I think, 3 articles. And again, you could probably have hundreds of PDFs in a folder. It's not a problem for Mendeley. So if I want to import that folder, I can just drag it into that same welcome screen that I used before. But I also have the option here under File. I can obviously see here it says Add Folders. I can tell Mendeley which folder I want to use. So that happens to be on my desktop, that particular folder, Mendeley examples. So I can say here, OK. It's going to pull those 3 PDFs in and again automatically generate all the metadata I would need. So the author name, the issue, in this case it happens to come from the Lancet, not New England Journal of Medicine. But it pulls on all the things I need to cite that article. So it does a really nice job. Okay, so that's a pretty simple way to do that. If you use Zotero a lot, or if you use Cite quite a bit, which I've never actually used myself, but it's a pretty popular option, you wouldn't necessarily have to export things as RIS and save it and drag it in. If I go up here to Tools, I actually have under Options, I can have Mendeley watch my Zotero or Cite account. So anything I added to Zotero would pull into my Mendeley account automatically. That might be good if you use a lot of web pages. I think personally that Zotero does a better job of importing web pages than Mendeley. Again, you can use your import to Mendeley button on web pages too, not just for things like PubMed to pull in articles. But I just think that Zotero does a better job. So if you use Zotero just for that function to pull in web pages, you could just have your Zotero account synced to Mendeley and automatically those citations would just go in. While I'm here, there are some other really kind of interesting options in Mendeley that are pretty unique, like I said. You have the option here to create watched folders. So any article, any PDF that you put into a watched folder automatically gets brought right into your Mendeley account, and I'll show you that in a second. And there's also an option here for this file organizer. So you can tell Mendeley when you pull a PDF into Mendeley, you can have it automatically rename that PDF to a kind of more standard naming convention title. And it also will go automatically into a folder called Mendeley Desktop where they're all renamed. So the reason why that's important, so I'm a librarian in my job. I'm the head of education at BU's Medical Library. So people ask me all the time to help them find articles. So when I find a PDF, like say for example this PDF here I pulled up earlier today, when you take a PDF from any database, it usually just generates some random number title like this. So I have no idea what that particular article is just from looking at that title. If I look at the ones I brought in from the Lancet earlier today, any article you pull down from a Elsevier journal, Lancet, any of those particular ones, this has this huge sort of totally random, so I don't even know what journal this came from, I don't know anything about this article at all. So before I send somebody an article, I used to have to go through and manually rename this because I just can't send somebody a title like this that's meaningless. It would drive me crazy as a librarian. So the really nice thing to me that Mendeley does, which is kind of a fascinating option, if you just take and drag, so I'm going to take this PDF here and I'll show you that this is called Tragedy's Legacy about, unfortunately, the Newtown, Connecticut shootings. If I take that PDF with this kind of useless title, and if I put that into this folder here that says PDFs for patrons, that's my watched folder for Mendeley on this computer. So it's going to automatically take that article, it's going to send that right from that PDFs for patrons to my Mendeley desktop, and then rename that PDF and put it over in my Mendeley desktop folder. So again, let's look at that really quickly just to see what it looks like, to get the author's name again. So, sorry, that's the wrong one. So let me just see here. Oh, it's not a big deal. I'll find it in a second when I get to where it's going. So I'm just going to go back to my Mendeley desktop here. I'm going to sync my account. And sometimes it depends on how much traffic is on the web. It could take a few seconds to get here, but it should show up at the bottom of this list here at coming out at 7:29 or 7:30 the last time I imported it. And you'll see that it pulled, I didn't put that article into Mendeley, I put it into that watched folder and it pulled it back in by itself. Once it's here, all the metadata is going to be there so I can see that article will be here. Let's try this again. Sometimes it does take a second. And then once it's in here, it is going to rename that article. So it's really a nice feature. It does things for you automatically. I'll just go back up to the top, try this one more time. It's not really a big deal. It does work, like I said, sometimes a little bit slow just based on how much traffic that you have. So these are the three I pulled in a second ago, by the way, just importing that complete folder. So if I go, just minimize this to show you also how this works. I'm just going to go to my computer. I want to look at all the things in my documents. And if I go here, here's that Mendeley desktop folder that it made by itself. So here, these are articles that I've pulled in. It automatically just goes through and renames those for me from that watch folder, which is really nice. So I didn't have to do anything. So it just went through and did this by itself. Anything I pulled into that folder, it renamed automatically. And so if I send somebody this PDF now, this is a much more useful title than that string of numbers and digits that was just generated automatically by that particular database. Okay, so this might not be a feature that you use very often, but I think it's really helpful for me. Thinking about folders and options you have that if you've used other citation management packages before, again like EndNote or Zotero, you've probably made dozens, if not hundreds, of sort of folders and subfolders to organize things. You can see that my account has very few folders. I don't think I created any of these. They're all the ones that just come sort of standard in your Mendeley desktop client installation. So the reason why I really don't have any folders is that the sort of the mantra of Mendeley is search, don't file, the same mantra that they actually borrowed from Gmail. So it's such a good search engine in Mendeley, you don't really need to search for anything. Sorry, you don't need to file anything. You can just search for it instead. So the way that works, again, say I was looking for, I don't know, cancer as a topic. If I just type in cancer here, so as you'd expect, it's going to look through all of my records and pull back ones that have cancer in the title or cancer in the abstract. But what's really kind of fascinating with Mendeley, so these ones here where PDFs are attached, if I click on the PDF, it's also going to highlight the word cancer inside the PDF. So it can actually look in PDF, so even if it's not in the abstract or in the title or anything else, if you sort of remember that something was just mentioned in an article but it's not really about that particular topic, it wasn't indexed that way, Mendeley can still find it inside the PDF, which is great. I'm also going to show, I'm just going to back off for a second to make it a little bit clearer what I want to do here. Any PDF I do have, I'm just going to click again on one of these PDFs here. You also have the option, you can see the PDF actually opens in Mendeley, so you can read that PDF here. And you also have some really kind of fascinating options you can do. So sometimes when you search a PDF, you know, if you want to cut and paste text, it can be hard to do. You can use this tool here to select text, copy it, and paste it someplace else. But I think what's more useful, I can also highlight things. So I can just click on that button and highlight. So this is going to stay attached to that PDF. So if I make highlights on this PDF to kind of remind myself to use this paper or this part of the paper, I can just highlight it there. I can also put a sticky note on it, whatever I want to say, you know, make sure I cite this paper is important, look for other papers by this author, whatever it is. I can put a sticky note on a PDF. I also have the option, say this is one of the citations I have without a PDF. Any record I can always just make notes here as well too, just to remind myself of something. So if you're the kind of person who likes to make notes directly on a PDF, which I think only EndNote allows you to do this too, but I think Mendeley does a much better job. It's kind of a really fascinating option they have for you, so you can put your notes directly where you want your notes to go. Okay, so I'm just going to go back here again, just to my library. Just a few other things about your folder options. So you might see that these little green dots here on some of these papers, that just means it's, in this case, it's unread. If I click here right now, it's going to say read. So if I just want to keep track of it, what I've read, what I haven't read, I can just click these buttons here. This little star, there's a folder that comes automatically for favorites. So if you click on this as your favorite, it automatically is going to populate in this favorites folder. So just another way to keep track of papers that you might want to use for a project you're working on. My publications, you can just take any papers you yourself have written, and these are 2 of the papers I've done. There are a few more that aren't here yet. You can just take and drag that into that folder. And certainly if you like folders, you certainly have the option to make more folders. Like I said, I just have them because it does such a great job with doing this itself, with sort of searching for the content that you're looking for. You can also see here that under this folder option, there's this thing here for groups. So you can also create groups in Mendeley. You probably want to do that, though, from back in your Mendeley account. So I'm just going to go back up here to my Mendeley account. You can actually do it, too, from here. You can just have Mendeley get to your account from here. I'm just going to do it sort of the hard way. So I'm just going to go back to Mendeley.com and look at my account. Oops, sorry. Again, I can't type or spell. So if I look at my account, there's this dashboard here in Mendeley where they sort of show you an overview of what's going on in your account. So you can see this is one of my colleagues here, Lynn Etienne, so it's showing me updates that she's made in her account because she and I are in a group together. So dashboard is, again, just sort of what's going on with your account. But I can click here, My Library. So again, we've seen this view a few times and I've imported things. This is actually my library here on the web. All the same options here. My different folders are here. So I can import things into here. But I think it's easier to use the desktop client for a lot of these things. But you can certainly manage your account from here too. But it's also interesting, you see here where it says papers. So this is a way to sort of help you do research on other topics or to find other papers like the ones that you're using already. So these are sort of the most popular papers that people have uploaded recently. So this particular paper here, 4,100 people have this paper in their account from seeing it here. If I wanted to save this myself, I could just click Save PDF to Library. So apparently this is from a journal that's open access. I could just click on this and save that PDF to my library directly. I can also, though, kind of look by subject. So if I look through here, so I work at BU's medical school, so I'm going to click just here on medicine as a topic I'm interested in. And say I did a class on Mendeley yesterday on public health, say I just want to focus on public health. If I scroll down here, so public health is one of these options here. I can look at, so these are papers that, again, people in public health have put up here recently as being really popular. So it's a nice way if you want to see what's going on in a certain discipline. You can sort of use Mendeley to help you identify what's going on with that particular discipline or subdiscipline. You also have groups, so as I said, I have a group that does BU AML, just BU Alumni Medical Library, that a couple of my librarian colleagues and I share papers and look at things together. And also if you want to search for somebody in particular, so again, one of the people in my group who's now no longer at BU, she's actually at University of Boulder in Colorado. So if I wanted to look for her name is Bresnahan. I can just type in that person's name or a group name if I knew it existed. And here is my colleague, Megan Bresnahan. So you can make a group. You can invite people to a group. So you could say, once you create the group, you can set access. So you can just invite certain people you want. You can make it public. You can make it private. You have a lot of options about kind of setting the privacy and privileges for people in your group. One more thing I want to show you kind of about this paper I did that I think is really fascinating too. So I'm going to go up just back to my desktop here for a second and look at all documents. So if there's a paper, again, if you've done a lot of research and you found some papers you like, but you could use more similar papers, maybe if you're stuck that you only can find a paper that's sort of okay and you want papers that are better than the one you've already found. If you just look at any of these papers where it has this option here highlighted, so in this case, like I said, this paper is brand new, so no one else in Mendeley has uploaded this paper yet. It's not anybody else's account. But I'm just going to look at a paper I know this is going to work for. So if I look in my publications, this paper here that the library helped BU School of Public Health with this paper. So if you see this option here where it says View Research Catalog Entry for this paper, I'm sorry, I think I chose the wrong one here. I'll try this one instead. You can always, if this feature comes on that other people have indexed this paper, that you can go directly to Mendeley and find other papers like that paper. Strangely enough, I know this paper does work. I don't know why it's not working right. Oh, here we go, just a little bit slow. So I can click here and see in my Mendeley account other people who have put this paper in their library. So you can see that in this case, the person who added this was me, which I guess I'm the author that added this to my account. But if I scroll through here, I can see that people who have added this paper, these are the sort of categories in which they work. So 43% of the people who have read this paper in the social sciences, 43% are in medicine, 36% of the people are PhD students. So it's kind of an interesting snapshot as to who's reading my paper in this case. But what's even more interesting, so these are the people who have used this paper, but these are papers those people have put into their accounts. So if you can't find more papers than you're looking for, you're doing a search, you're kind of frustrated, you can find a paper in your library that is close to the topic you want. Click on that option and go to Mendeley and see what other people with similar interests who have cited that paper have also cited. Sometimes it's a nice way to sort of extend your research and also start looking in a new place to sort of make your research better. Okay, so that's pretty much everything I wanted to show you about how to get things into Mendeley and how to organize things. You might be wondering at this point, and this is probably unfortunately a really super long and hopefully not too boring tutorial, You might be wondering, how do I get things now out of my Mendeley account into a paper, because that's kind of the point of doing this in the first place. So I'll go back to my desktop client again, and you can see, as I said, you definitely want to install that install Word plugin. So I'm just going to go back to my desktop here and go to my copy of Word. So when I open up my copy of Word, I'm obviously on a PC. This is Word 2010. On a PC, when you install that Mendeley Word plugin, it's going to be here under References. It's going to be this option here, Mendeley Cite-O-Matic. It's probably under References on a Mac, but it could also be, sometimes you get a little sort of a black S up here that's like a script tool, and it might show up there too on a Mac for the options for the citing. So I'm just going to just type just some random garbage here just to have something to cite. So say I wanted to cite this particular sentence. I'm just going to click on this button that says, obviously, Insert Citation. Now I have the option, I could go to my library back on the web, but I'm just going to click on Go to Mendeley because I can use my desktop that's right here. And say I wanted to cite this paper that we at the BU Library helped the School of Public Health write. I can just click on that paper and click on Cite. And you see now I have APA style chosen here, so it's automatically going to start citing that paper in APA. If I have another sentence here, again I want to cite this sentence, I'm going to click on Insert Citation, again go back to my library. I'm just going to go someplace else now just for a different paper, and again say Cite. If I had 2 or 3 different papers to cite for this particular sentence here, again, I could just pick whatever the other paper happens to be and say Cite, those 2 papers, side by side. When I'm done writing my paper, I want to make a bibliography. Wherever I want the bibliography to go, I'd probably, of course, insert a page break and just go to a new page. If I want to put a bibliography right here, I can just click on the button that says Insert Bibliography, and there is a properly formatted APA bibliography. If you needed to change this, so say, and this happens with our students all the time, they write a paper for class in a certain style, the paper is so good, they want to submit that to a journal. So say you went from your paper formatted in APA for class, and you want to submit to, say, JAMA, which uses the AMA style. AMA style is different than this. All I have to do is go back up here and choose whatever style I want to use. And you see in this particular case, AMA style is not automatically installed. So if I need a style that's not here, I can just click here where it says More Styles, and I can go to whatever style I want. So again, AMA style is not here automatically, but I can just type in whatever style I want here. So I'm going to say just AMA and do a search. It's going to look for that AMA style back on the, the Mendeley page. So let's try this again. AMA style. So here is AMA. That's the same style they use in JAMA. So I'm going to say install. And when it does that, it's going to automatically change that back in my paper, which is really nice. So I can just go back over here to my Word document, and I'm going to see that it's already been changed to AMA style. I actually didn't do it in this case. Let me just try this. It could be a little slow, like I said, sometimes if a lot of people are using Mendeley, it can kind of clog up a little bit. So let me just try this again. Okay. Go. So now it's installed. And there we go. So now it just changed that back to AMA style. So it's really nice. You never have to retype a paper. If you write that paper once, you can just have Mendeley go through and change those citation styles for you. If you make changes, so say if you deleted a sentence or added a new sentence so the number is a little bit changed now, all you have to do is click on refresh. So if I deleted something or added a sentence, or say I added something here, it would obviously make this 2, that 3, and that 4. So it does a really nice job of managing all this for you automatically. Thank you for watching this video. If you have any questions about Mendeley or about anything else, please feel free to contact us at the reference desk. You can stop by anytime Monday through Friday from 8:30 to 5, or you can call us at 617-638-4228, or send us an email at refquest@bu.edu.